There is a version of yourself that you have spent your entire life trying not to become. It's not the person you were told to fear. It is something closer, the parts of you that you deemed too sharp, too selfish, too chaotic, too uncaring. The impulses you strangled before they could reach the surface. The rage you transmuted into silence. The selfishness you buried beneath endless service. This disowned self is not your enemy. It is your shadow, and until you turn to face it, you will never be whole. Welcome to Power and Myth. Jung called the shadow everything in us that the conscious personality cannot acknowledge. For the INFJ, the shadow is particularly strange territory because you have spent your life crafting an identity around being good, around being the one who understands, who helps, who sees clearly, who holds space for others. You have built yourself into the wounded healer, the seer, the one who carries what others cannot bear. And in doing so, you have exiled enormous portions of yourself into darkness, not because they were evil, but because they did not fit the story you needed to tell about who you are. The shadow is not the villain of your psyche. It is the prisoner. And befriending it is the gateway to individuation, to becoming whole, to finally arriving at yourself. Most people think shadow work means acknowledging your flaws, that you are sometimes impatient, judgmental, or unkind, but this misses the point entirely. The shadow is not simply your flaws, it is everything you split off from consciousness to survive. For the INFJ child who realized early that being sensitive was dangerous, the shadow contains your capacity for hardness. For the INFJ who learned that anger made people leave, the shadow holds your rage. Or the one who discovered that needing others meant being abandoned, the shadow houses your dependency, your hunger to be held, your desperate wish to collapse into someone else's care and not have to be the strong one for once. The shadow is not what you pretend not to be. It is what you cannot afford to be until you can. Here is what most people never understand about shadow work for the INFJ. You are not integrating darkness in the way the term suggests. You are not becoming meaner, crueler, or more selfish. You are reclaiming energy. Every quality you have suppressed still exists. It has not disappeared. It has simply been pushed into the basement of your psyche, where it runs wild, unexamined, influencing you in ways you do not recognize. This is why you sometimes snap at people you love over nothing, why you feel inexplicable rage at minor slights, why you are drawn to people who embody everything you claim to despise. The shadow leaks, and until you turn towards it with intention, it will continue to sabotage you from below. The Jungian path of individuation is the work of a lifetime, and it begins with this exact moment, the moment you stop running from the disowned parts of yourself and turn to face them, not to annihilate them, not to justify them, but to see them, to ask what they were protecting, to understand that the selfishness you buried was once a child's instinct for self-preservation, that the rage you transmuted into passivity was once a healthy response to being violated, that the coldness you fear is simply the exhausted remnant of caring too much for too long without reciprocation. Befriending the shadow does not mean giving these qualities free rein. It means bringing them into the light so they can be integrated consciously and serve you rather than possess you. You are sitting across from someone who is telling you about their problems. Again, you are nodding in the right places, asking the right questions, holding space the way you always do, and beneath the surface there is a voice you do not let yourself hear. It is saying, I do not care about this. I am exhausted. I want them to stop talking and ask me how I am for once. You silence this voice immediately. You tell yourself you are being cruel, that you are failing at compassion, that a good person would not think such things. But the voice is not cruel. It is your shadow, trying to tell you that your boundaries have been breached, that you have given more than you have to give, that the endless empathy you offer is no longer sustainable. The shadow is not the villain here, it is the messenger, and if you keep killing the messenger, you will never receive the message. The INFJ shadow often contains qualities you might call negative: selfishness, coldness, rage, cruelty, indifference. But here is the paradox Jung understood, and most modern psychology does not. These qualities are not inherently negative. They become negative when they are unconscious, when they erupt sideways, when they possess you because you refuse to acknowledge them. Conscious selfishness is called boundaries. Conscious coldness is called detachment. Conscious rage is called the energy to change what is intolerable. Conscious cruelty is the ability to say no without guilt. Conscious indifference is the capacity to let go of what is not yours to carry. The shadow does not need to be destroyed. It needs to be befriended. It needs to be given a seat at the table of your psyche, so it stops overturning the table from below. This is where it becomes genuinely difficult, because the INFJ has often built their entire identity around not being the shadow. You are the helper, and the shadow is the one who refuses to help. You are the empath, and the shadow is the one who does not feel. You are the idealist, and the shadow is the one who sees through everyone's pretense and finds them wanting. To befriend the shadow means to risk losing the identity you've spent your life constructing. It means admitting that the person you have been trying to be is not the whole of who you are. And for the INFJ, this feels like death, because in some sense it is. Individuation requires the death of the persona, the social mask, the carefully constructed self that earns you love and approval. It requires you to step into the unknowable territory of who you actually are beneath what you were taught to be. And this is terrifying. Jung wrote that one does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious. For the INFJ, the darkness is not what you think it is. It is not violence, malice, or harm. It is the parts of you that wanted to be seen and were ignored. The child who needed to be held and was told to be strong. The adolescent who raged against injustice and was told to calm down. The young adult who wanted to be selfish and was shamed into service. Every time you suppressed a need, a desire, an impulse that did not fit the good INFJ narrative, you fed the shadow. And now the shadow is enormous. It contains entire lifetimes of unlived experience, of roads not taken, of selves not permitted. The shadow is not your enemy. It is your unlived life, demanding to be acknowledged. Here is what shadow work actually looks like in practice. You notice the moment of rage, not the rage itself, but the moment just before you swallow it and turn it into understanding. You pause there. You do not act on the rage, but you do not dismiss it either. You ask it, what are you protecting? What boundary has been crossed? What part of me is trying to survive by getting angry right now? And then you listen, not to justify rage, not to unleash it on someone who does not deserve it, but to understand what it is trying to tell you about your own limits, your own needs, your own thresholds. This is befriending the shadow. It is not integration through explosion. It is integration through curiosity. The INFJ often experiences the shadow through projection. You see in others what you cannot see in yourself. The unapologetically selfish person enrages you, and you tell yourself it is because selfishness is wrong, but the rage is disproportionate. It is not moral outrage, it is envy. You are watching someone live freely in the quality you had to exile to be loved. The emotionally unavailable person fascinates you, and you tell yourself it is because you want to help them open up, but the fascination runs deeper. You are drawn to the coldness you cannot allow yourself. The person who sets boundaries without guilt makes you feel judged, and you tell yourself they are harsh, but the judgment you feel is your own shadow, showing you what you have not yet learned to do. Projection is not a moral failing, it is a map. Every time you have a disproportionate emotional reaction to someone, your shadow is showing you where the work is. The individuation journey for the INFJ is the slow, painstaking process of reclaiming these projections, of withdrawing the energy you have placed on others and recognizing it in yourself, of admitting that the selfishness you despise is your own disowned need for self-care, that the coldness you judge is your own exhausted wish to stop feeling so much, that the boundaries you resent in others are the ones you have never learned to set. This is not comfortable work. It requires you to see yourself as more complex, more contradictory, more human than the idealized self-image you have been maintaining. It requires you to hold the paradox that you are both the helper and the one who wants to refuse help, both the empath and the one who is tired of feeling, both the idealist and the one who sees through every illusion and finds the world wanting. Wholeness is not purity, it is the integration of opposites. There is a shadow side to every INFJ archetype, and this is where the work deepens. The seer who perceives too clearly can become the cynic, the one who sees through everyone and trusts no one. The wounded healer who transmutes pain can become the martyr, the one who uses their wounds to manipulate others into gratitude. The hermit who withdraws for wisdom can become the exile, the one who isolates not from necessity but from fear of being known. The shapeshifter who adapts to every context can become the liar, the one who has worn so many faces they no longer know which one is real. The guardian of thresholds who helps others cross can become the gatekeeper, the one who controls access and withholds passage. Every archetype contains its shadow, and the work of individuation is not to choose light over shadow. It is to see how they are one movement, one pattern, one self-expressing through different conditions. Jung believed that the shadow, once integrated, becomes the source of tremendous energy and creativity. Because the shadow contains everything you suppressed, it also contains everything you needed to suppress to survive, which means it contains your vitality, your instinct, your anger, which is the energy to change what is intolerable, your selfishness, which is the capacity to honor your own needs, your coldness, which is the detachment required to let go of what is killing you, your cruelty, which is the willingness to speak truth even when it wounds. These are not qualities to be ashamed of. They are qualities that have been waiting in exile for you to have the strength to claim them finally. The INFJ who befriends their shadow does not become less compassionate. They become compassionate from a place of wholeness rather than from a place of self-abandonment. And that changes everything. You are in a conversation where someone is asking you to do something you do not want to do. They are not demanding, they are simply asking. And you feel the familiar tightening in your chest, the sense that if you say no, you are failing, you are cruel, you are not who you are supposed to be. This is the moment where the shadow can speak, if you let it. The shadow is the voice that says, I do not owe them this, I am allowed to refuse. My no is not a betrayal, and for the INFJ, allowing this voice to speak without shame is revolutionary, because it means you are no longer held hostage by the persona of the good helper. You are free to choose, not from obligation, not from guilt, but from the integrated self that knows both service and refusal are necessary. The gateway to wholeness is narrow, and it requires you to carry everything you are through it, not just the parts you are proud of, not just the qualities that earned you love, but the rage, the selfishness, the coldness, the cruelty, the indifference, the parts of you that do not fit the story of the enlightened INFJ. Wholeness is not the achievement of sainthood, it is the integration of your humanity, and your humanity is vast and contradictory, and cannot be divided into acceptable and unacceptable without doing tremendous violence to yourself. This is what Jung meant by individuation, not the perfection of the self, but the completion of it. The arrival at a place where all of you can exist in the same room without warfare. Befriending the shadow does not mean you stop being kind. It means your kindness is no longer compulsive. It does not mean you stop helping. It means your help is no longer self-abandonment. It does not mean you stop feeling deeply. It means your depth is no longer your only mode of being. The INFJ who has integrated their shadow can be kind and cruel, empathic and detached, idealistic and cynical, depending on what the moment requires, not because they are inconsistent, but because they are whole, and wholeness contains multitudes. This is the great paradox of shadow work. You become more yourself by admitting you are not oneself, You become whole by accepting your fragmentation. You become integrated by acknowledging your contradictions. The work is never complete. Individuation is not a destination. It is the orientation of a lifetime. Every time you meet a new part of yourself that you do not want to be, you are at the threshold again. Every time you catch yourself projecting onto someone else, you have another opportunity to withdraw the projection and reclaim the energy. Every time you feel rage or coldness or cruelty rising, and you pause instead of suppressing, you are befriending the shadow again. This is not linear progress, it is spiral. You will meet the same shadows at different depths, and each time you will have the chance to see them more clearly, to integrate them more fully, to allow them to become part of the conscious self rather than the hidden saboteur. Jung said, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are." For the INFJ, this privilege is also a burden, because becoming who you truly are means stepping away from who you were told to be. It means disappointing people who love the persona. It means losing relationships that were built on your endless availability. It means accepting that wholeness is more important than approval. And this is where the Power and Myth community understands something that the wider world does not. You are not here to be palatable. You are not here to make others comfortable. You are here to become whole. And wholeness is not always pleasant. It is simply true. If something in this video named the work you have been avoiding, let me know in the comments which shadow quality you are ready to befriend. The rage, the selfishness, the coldness, the refusal. I want to know where you are on this journey, and if you are ready to continue exploring the ancient path of individuation, to keep walking towards wholeness even when it costs you the identity you thought you were, subscribe. This is Power and Myth. You are not too much, nor are you too little. You are exactly the size of your own soul, and your soul contains everything, the light and the shadow, the gift and the wound, the self you show and the self you hide. All of it is yours. All of it is necessary. Until next time, find your power, know your myth.